Have you ever stopped to think about who really makes the decisions that shape the world we live in? While rulers present themselves to the public as responsible for major global events, a select group composed of the most influential figures on the planet meets in absolute secrecy to discuss matters that never reach the knowledge of the average citizen. Welcome to another night where mysteries never sleep. I'm Midnight, and this is 7 Nights. Before we dive into this story filled with chilling revelations, remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel. This helps us continue exploring the deepest secrets for you. This is the Bilderberg Group, the exclusive club that brings together political leaders, billionaire entrepreneurs, and media magnates. Why do these people meet behind closed doors, far from any form of public scrutiny? What is really decided in these private conversations? And more importantly, how does it affect our lives? Let's find out. The birth of an exclusive club. The year was 1954, and Europe still bore the scars left by World War II. Amid a backdrop of growing tensions between the East and the West, a group of political leaders, intellectuals, and business people gathered at the Bilderberg Hotel in the small town of Oosterbeek, Netherlands. The initial proposal seemed almost innocent: to create a forum where European and North American elites could debate ways to strengthen transatlantic ties. It's funny how it always starts with a charming speech about unity, but when so many powerful people come together, you know there's more going on. However, what began as a simple exchange of ideas quickly turned into something much larger and more mysterious. Why the absolute secrecy from the beginning? According to the founders, it was justified as a way to allow frank discussions free from external judgment. But was that all? From the very first meeting, the lack of transparency drew attention, with many wondering what was being discussed away from the eyes of the media and, consequently, the public. The chosen location was no accident. The hotel's isolation and security created the perfect environment to ensure no information leaked. Over the decades, the group has solidified itself as an annual event. Each meeting is held in a different country, but the format remains the same: closed doors, armed security, and a carefully curated list of participants. Not just anyone can participate in the Bilderberg Group. One must be among the most influential names in the world, and even then, an invitation is only guaranteed with the approval of influential members. The decision to remain anonymous in its organization is also intriguing. The founders included figures such as Joseph Riedinger, a Polish political consultant specializing in uniting Western European interests, and Prince Bernhard of the Netherlands, who used his influence to lend weight to the group. Wouldn't it be logical for such an important meeting to have at least some form of public oversight? Or was the opposite the idea from the very beginning? Over the decades, Bilderberg has become the epicenter of various conspiracy theories. Some believe it is one of the pillars for the creation of a new world order, while others see the meetings as merely a social club for the rich and powerful. But if it were just that, why so much effort to keep everything secret? This doubt deepens when we analyze the agenda of each meeting. No topics are disclosed, nor are minutes or public records kept. Participants are free to discuss any subject, but are never allowed to disclose the content of these conversations. The extreme secrecy fuels speculation and raises a disturbing question: what important decisions might be made far from the public's reach? Over the years, the meeting has attracted protests and investigations by independent journalists and activist groups. Many of these efforts, however, face almost insurmountable barriers. The locations of the meetings are strategically protected, and participants frequently use private security to ensure no one gets close. But is the secrecy just a protective measure, or is there something much darker behind this curtain? Each year, new faces join the club, while other veterans return. It's impossible to ignore the pattern. Participants often occupy positions of power shortly after these meetings. Coincidence? Or does the Bilderberg Group truly serve as a springboard for those who follow its agenda? Each year, the guest list is scrutinized by curious onlookers and investigators. Among the most famous names are figures like Bill Clinton, before becoming President of the United States, and Emmanuel Macron, who participated before rising to power in France. Even leaders of the European Union, like Ursula von der Leyen, have attended Bilderberg. Is it mere coincidence, or is there something deliberate behind these connections? The mystery surrounding the group's true intentions only grows over time. And that is precisely what makes Bilderberg so fascinating and terrifying. In a world increasingly demanding transparency and accountability, why do we still allow an elite group to operate in total darkness? the faces behind the power. When it comes to the Bilderberg Group, one question almost immediately arises. Who participates in this mysterious meeting? The list of participants is as exclusive as the event itself, bringing together some of the most influential names in the world. Have you noticed how it's always the same figures appearing in places that shape the future? It feels like there's a power clique. It's not just politicians and business people, but a strategic mix of figures representing various sectors of society, from tech magnates to media personalities. Among the regular guests are leaders of major corporations, such as presidents of multinational banks, CEOs of tech giants, and owners of media conglomerates. Figures like Bill Gates, Elon Musk, and Jeff Bezos have been associated with the group. But why these people? Isn't it curious that such a reserved club seems to select only those with the capacity to shape economies, policies, and even culture? In addition to entrepreneurs, politicians make up a significant portion of the participants. Often, leaders who are not yet widely known emerge on the global stage after these meetings. A classic example is Bill Clinton, who attended a Bilderberg meeting before becoming President of the United States. The same happened with Emmanuel Macron, who shortly before his rise to power in France was seen among the guests. But perhaps most intriguing is the involvement of royalty. Figures like Queen Beatrix of the Netherlands and Prince Philip of the United Kingdom have attended Bilderberg. Why would monarchs participate in discussions supposedly focused on public policies and economics? Are they merely playing a symbolic role, or are they central pieces on the global power chessboard? The involvement of the media is another curious aspect. Despite magnates and editors of major media outlets being invited to the event, the Bilderberg Group is consistently ignored in headlines. How is it possible that a meeting of such importance rarely receives journalistic coverage? Could it be that the media owners themselves partake in this intentional silence? A closer analysis shows that participants are not chosen solely for their positions, but also for their influence. Over the decades, the group seems to have a kind of dynamic criterion, inviting those who may be useful for the topics discussed that year. This would explain the presence of certain political leaders early in their careers and executives of emerging companies who later become giants in their respective fields. There's also an interesting pattern in the selection of guests. Not all are public figures. Some are consultants, academics, and strategists who, though unknown to the general public, play a vital role in formulating global policies. What do these experts discuss? What kind of guidance do they provide to the other group members? The extreme secrecy surrounding participants also raises ethical questions. Many of these guests are public servants or hold positions that, in theory, require transparency and accountability regarding their actions. Wouldn't it be fair for them to disclose what was debated in such an influential meeting? Or are these gatherings above any moral or legal obligation? Another intriguing aspect is the presence of representatives from international institutions like the IMF, International Monetary Fund, and the World Bank. These entities have a direct impact on the global economy and the policies of various countries. What happens when their leaders discuss sensitive topics with business people and politicians in a completely closed environment? Could Bilderberg be directly influencing the fate of entire nations? And why would such influential figures continue to participate year after year? Is it merely for prestige, or is there something far more valuable being offered at these meetings? For many, simply being present at Bilderberg is already a sign that one has access to information and opportunities beyond the reach of most. As more names are revealed, it becomes clear that the Bilderberg Group functions as a powerful network of connections, perhaps the most powerful in the world. However, this raises an unsettling question. If these meetings shape the global future, what happens to those who lack access to this elite? Are Bilderberg's decisions truly for the collective good, or merely for the benefit of its members? The enigma of secrecy. What intrigues most about the Bilderberg Group is not just who participates, but the absolute secrecy surrounding all its meetings. Since its inception, the group has operated under a strict confidentiality policy. Written records, recordings, or even personal notes are not allowed during discussions. Participants can share ideas freely, but they can never disclose what they heard or said. Why so much protection? Come on, the more they say they can't tell, the more we want to know. It's like basic mystery rules, right? The official justification is that secrecy fosters a relaxed environment where global leaders can debate sensitive issues without the pressure of cameras or public scrutiny. But is that enough to explain such caution? Wouldn't it be fair for decisions so crucial to the future of the world to be known by those directly affected by them, namely us? The lack of transparency fuels the conspiracy theories surrounding the group. Many believe that behind those closed doors, matters like changes to global economic policies, military interventions, and even strategies to manipulate public opinion are decided. It may sound exaggerated, but how can one know the truth when there's no way to verify what actually happens inside? Additionally, Bilderberg's secrecy is not merely a protocol, it's an active and ostentatious measure. Meetings are surrounded by armed security, roadblocks around chosen venues, and constant monitoring of potential spies or protesters. The very choice of isolated hotels in remote areas seems to reinforce the desire to keep all prying eyes far away. This extreme control raises another question. Is the security solely to protect participants or also to conceal the content of the discussions? Many activist groups and independent journalists who have tried to approach Bilderberg have been quickly intercepted, with reports of confiscated equipment and arbitrary arrests. What is so valuable or sensitive that it justifies this level of precaution? The enigma deepens when we realize that despite the secrecy, the group continues to attract the biggest names in global politics and economics. After all, if these meetings were harmless or merely symbolic, why would such prestigious figures associate themselves with something so controversial? Over the decades, Bilderberg's secrecy has been fiercely defended, but times have changed. We live in an era where transparency is demanded, and secrets of this kind are increasingly difficult to sustain. Nevertheless, the group continues to operate almost impenetrably, further reinforcing the notion that they have something to hide. Even so, some information does escape, thanks to anonymous sources and leaked documents. These fragments often confirm what many fear: discussions about changes to financial systems, reconfiguration of economic blocs, and even the manipulation of global crises. Are these leaks the tip of the iceberg or merely isolated coincidences? One of the most common criticisms is that Bilderberg acts as a kind of shadow government, influencing political and economic decisions without any democratic oversight. Many participants hold public office, and it's reasonable to question whether they prioritize the interests of their countries or those of the group. Isn't this an affront to the idea of responsibility and ethics in politics? But perhaps the greatest mystery is, why does the group continue to function this way despite so much criticism? Could secrecy, in fact, be what keeps Bilderberg so powerful? After all, the unknown always generates fascination and fear, two powerful weapons in a world where influence is everything. Theories and conspiracies. What does Bilderberg really want? The absolute secrecy surrounding the Bilderberg group has made it fertile ground for conspiracy theories. For decades, rumors about what really happens inside the meetings have fueled a mix of fascination and paranoia. But is Bilderberg merely a forum for debates, as its members claim, or is there something darker hidden behind its facade of neutrality? One of the most widespread theories is that the group is working to establish a new world order. This idea of a new world order is one of those things that splits opinions. Either you think it's total nonsense, or you start connecting the dots and get chills. This concept, popularized by writers and conspiracy theorists, suggests the creation of a centralized global government, where power would rest in the hands of a small elite. For some, Bilderberg would be the ideal stage to coordinate the first steps of this plan, as it brings together leaders with the reach and influence to implement structural changes worldwide. While this idea might seem exaggerated, certain historical events have heightened suspicions. Many believe that financial crises, such as the one in 2008, were planned or at least manipulated by group members to benefit their agendas. Banks collapsed, economies crumbled, but some large corporations, whose CEOs had attended Bilderberg, emerged even stronger. Coincidence? Another controversial point is the alleged role of Bilderberg in deciding who will occupy positions of power worldwide. As mentioned earlier, figures like Bill Clinton and Emmanuel Macron attended the group before rising to power. This has led many to question whether Bilderberg serves as a springboard for future leaders, selecting those aligned with the interests of the global elite. Do voters have any control, or are decisions made long before ballots are cast? Beyond political matters, there is speculation about how Bilderberg influences the global economy. Some suggest the group orchestrates the creation of monopolies, where large companies absorb or destroy competition, consolidating control in a few players. This would explain why so many multinational CEOs regularly attend the meetings. Are these companies tools of a larger plan? The group is also accused of manipulating the media. It is known that media moguls participate in Bilderberg, yet their companies rarely cover the meetings or discuss their implications. This has led critics to accuse the group of censoring information or, worse, using the media as an instrument to shape public opinion in favor of its agendas. Are the global narratives we consume daily, in part, influenced by these secret discussions? Another intriguing theory is that Bilderberg plays an active role in the technology agenda. With increasing participation from Silicon Valley executives, many believe the group discusses not only the future of technology, but also how it can be used to control the masses. From monitoring personal data to using artificial intelligence to influence behavior, the potential for manipulation is frightening. But how much of these theories are based on facts, and how much is a product of imagination? The group itself claims its meetings are merely informal conversations about the world's challenges. Yet, how to explain the numerous leaks that seem to contradict this narrative? And why would so many powerful people gather just to exchange ideas, with no concrete objectives? Even the leaks, however, raise questions. Why are some pieces of information revealed, while others remain hidden? Could these fragments be intentionally leaked as a way to manipulate public perception of the group? After all, in a world where controlling information is one of the greatest weapons, even secrets can be used strategically. What is undeniable is that Bilderberg, whatever its true nature, wields a disproportionate influence on the global stage. Its meetings may not be the epicenter of every conspiracy, but the power patterns and connections among its participants are hard to ignore. When leaders from so many fields meet in secret, it's natural for people to suspect. The question that remains is, what does Bilderberg really want? Is it merely a space for informal debates, or do its intentions go far beyond what we can imagine? Whatever the answer, one thing is certain: as long as its doors remain closed, doubts will continue to grow. The impact of Bilderberg on the real world. Although many of its activities remain shrouded in secrecy, the effects of the Bilderberg Group in the real world are hard to ignore. Its participants often emerge as key figures in major political and economic decisions, leading critics to suggest that the group acts as a planning ground for the global elite. But to what extent is this true? One of the strongest indications of its influence lies in the fact that Bilderberg meetings often precede significant changes in international politics. It's as if Bilderberg is a laboratory where ideas are tested before being implemented. We only find out once everything is already decided. For example, in 1991, Bill Clinton attended the event and shortly after began his successful campaign for the presidency of the United States. Similarly, Tony Blair, who was also invited before ascending to the position of Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, became a central figure in global politics after his participation. These patterns raise questions. Is Bilderberg a space where future leaders are shaped? Or do these participations merely reflect a legitimate interest by emerging leaders in understanding global challenges? Whatever the answer, there is no denying that the group functions as a true networking club, where strategic alliances can be formed away from the public eye. The group's influence is not limited to politics. There are indications that economic discussions held during the meetings have had a direct impact on global markets. During the financial crisis of 2008, for instance, rumors surfaced that executives from major banks, who were also regular Bilderberg participants, had discussed strategies to address the crisis, strategies that disproportionately benefited large corporations while millions of people lost jobs and homes. Another notable example is the impact of discussions on energy. Frequently, the group's meetings include representatives from major oil companies, leaders in renewable energy sectors, and even officials tied to environmental policies. Are decisions about the world's energy future being made in these private conversations? Beyond economics and politics, the group appears to have a growing interest in technology and science. In recent decades, the presence of leaders from Silicon Valley and biotechnology giants has increased significantly. The possibility that topics such as artificial intelligence, mass surveillance, and genetic manipulation are being discussed is unsettling. Who decides how these technologies will be used, and who will benefit or be harmed? This brings up the concept of informational inequality. While most of us only learn about global trends when they are already underway, Bilderberg members have access to insider information that can give them a competitive edge. Doesn't this create a dangerous imbalance between the elite and the rest of the population? Another less discussed but equally relevant impact is the cultural influence of the group. Many participants have direct or indirect control over the media, meaning they can shape global narratives. From how we perceive humanitarian crises to how we interpret political movements, the power to influence public opinion may be one of Bilderberg's most valuable assets. The ethical question also arises when we consider that many participants hold public positions. How can the confidentiality of the meetings be reconciled with the transparency expected of public figures? Are these leaders representing the interests of their constituents or the interests of the group? Critics also point to the fact that Bilderberg operates outside any type of international regulation or oversight. In a world where even small organizations must justify their actions, how can such a powerful group operate without accountability? Wouldn't this be a threat to the very idea of democracy? Bilderberg's impact is undeniable, but its exact reach remains a mystery. We know that important decisions are made at these meetings, but to what extent do these decisions directly affect our lives? And perhaps more disturbingly, are the changes we see in the world the result of discussions held by a small group, or merely carefully staged coincidences? The future of humanity, technology, and the role of Bilderberg. Discussions about the future of humanity inevitably involve technology. The Bilderberg Group, composed of visionaries in science, technology leaders, and CEOs of companies shaping the digital world, seems strategically positioned to influence how we live, work, and relate to one another. But what is being decided in this closed circle about the innovations that will define future generations? In recent decades, the list of Bilderberg participants has begun to include names from tech giants such as Google, Microsoft, Facebook, and other companies that now control much of our digital lives. These encounters are no coincidence. We live in the age of information, and control over data is the new power. What might be debated when the holders of this data meet with political and economic leaders? Among the most frightening possibilities is the use of emerging technologies for mass surveillance. When you combine surveillance and power, it's scary to think about what they could do. Will the future be freer or more controlled? Advances in artificial intelligence, combined with facial recognition tools and data collection, could create a society where privacy is not just limited, but completely non-existent. Does Bilderberg discuss how these technologies could be used to ensure social order, or even consolidate elite control? Another growing concern is behavioral manipulation through technology. It is already known that social media algorithms can influence everything from consumer preferences to political decisions. What if the next step is using these tools in even more sophisticated ways? Bilderberg, with access to experts in neuroscience and behavioral psychology, might be exploring ways to apply these findings on a large scale. Additionally, there is the issue of unequal technological development. While richer countries dominate access to innovations, many regions of the world remain marginalized. Isn't Bilderberg the perfect place to decide who will have access to the most advanced technologies and who will be left behind? If such decisions are being made, what are the criteria? The impact of technologies on the job market cannot be ignored either. Automation, robotics, and artificial intelligence are eliminating jobs at an accelerating pace, leaving many wondering what will happen to people who lose their livelihoods. Does Bilderberg discuss strategies to address this phenomenon, or is its focus on ensuring the impact benefits only a small portion of society? Biotechnology is another field that sparks curiosity. Group participants include leaders of pharmaceutical companies and cutting-edge researchers. From genetic editing to the creation of synthetic organisms, what is being debated about the ethical and practical limits of these technologies? Could these innovations be used to control the genetic characteristics of entire populations? And what about space exploration? With the growing interest in colonizing other planets and exploiting space resources, it's likely that Bilderberg is already discussing how to divide this new territory. After all, who decides who will have the right to explore what lies beyond Earth? Are these decisions being made with humanity's benefit in mind or just corporate interests? Although few concrete pieces of evidence about these discussions come to light, the recurring presence of technology and science leaders at Bilderberg leaves no doubt that these topics are on the table. What remains in question is the ultimate goal of these conversations. Does the group aim to create a more prosperous and sustainable future, or to ensure that its influence remains unshaken as the world evolves? Whatever the answer, the impact of these decisions will be felt by all of us. We live in a crucial moment, where the choices made today will shape the coming decades. What is being decided at Bilderberg may determine whether technology becomes a tool for liberation or control. In the end, who really decides what it means to be human in the age of technology? Are we mere passive spectators while these conversations shape our destiny? The Bilderberg Group is a mystery that refuses to be completely unraveled. For nearly 7 decades, it has remained a meeting point for some of the world's most powerful minds while fueling speculation and suspicion. Its extreme secrecy, combined with repetitive patterns of influence among its participants, makes it impossible to ignore its impact, even as much remains in the shadows. This story is just one piece, and someday, perhaps the entire puzzle will be seen. If this made you think, subscribe and like the video. It helps the channel grow. Don't forget to share. After all, more voices mean more discoveries. If you've made it this far, it's because something in this mystery captivated you. But I bet you haven't seen everything yet. Click on the next videos now to continue your journey into the unknown. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe so you don't miss the next secrets I'm about to reveal. But be careful. Once you step inside, there's no turning back.